Hanoi is the capital and the second most populated city of Vietnam. It's known for its narrow, bustling streets, historic French architecture, and as well as being one of the cheapest cities in the world. In this video, I spent a few days exploring the city at the start of my trip through Southeast Asia. I've just arrived in Hanoi, the capital city of Vietnam, and Hanoi also marks the start of my epic trip across Southeast Asia. I'm here for about 2.5 weeks, and I'm planning to explore Vietnam as well as some parts of Cambodia as well. So make sure you subscribe to see all those videos that come from this trip. But yeah, the time is currently now 7:30 a.m. I arrived into Hanoi about 2 hours ago at 5:30 a.m. and it was a really long flight. It was about 12 hours long. I didn't really sleep properly on the flight as well, so apologies if I look very tired. I've got severe bags underneath my eyes as well. But yeah, in fact it's so early that I can't even check into my hotel. I've just dropped my bags off and I'm going to walk around the streets of Hanoi for a bit to kill a bit of time before I can check in. As you can probably tell by the background sounds, at 7:30 a.m. it's already full of life, so I can't wait to go out and explore. So yeah, as you can see, the streets of Hanoi are absolutely chaotic. There's no sense of like lane discipline, which coming from like a westernized country where that's like a very just normal day part of life, it's just very weird. People overtake on the left, the right, the middle, wherever there's a gap really. Another thing I've noticed is people don't stop for you at crossings. So the only way you can cross the road is you just have to step onto the road and hope they go around you somehow. So yeah, you gotta have your wits about you when you're around in Vietnam. The first proper touristy spot I'm visiting in Hanoi is the Ngon Soc Temple. Apologies if I butchered that pronunciation. I'll have a little caption below saying exactly how it's spelled. But yeah, this is a Confucius-era temple based in Hanoi. It's actually on a little island and it's surrounded by the lake, which you can see just over here, which is called Hon Kim Lake, which translates into Sword Lake. But yeah, it's very picturesque. To visit the temple and also to visit this little island, you have to pay 30,000 dong, which is the equivalent to about just over £1. And yeah, it's definitely worth it. Vietnam is a very sort of Buddhist country, and I definitely would recommend checking out some of its temples. One thing I've noticed in my short stay in Hanoi already is the air pollution. As you can see, it looks pretty bad. You can't really make out the buildings in the distance that well, even though it's like a sunny day. And near like the airport, it was even worse than this. And I feel like this is quite a common thing across Asia. I've been to India quite a few times, and in India the air pollution is absolutely horrific. Like, in fact, it's so bad that it's actually quite harmful to your body. In Vietnam it doesn't seem that bad, but maybe you might want to wear a face mask whilst you're out and about, which I've seen quite a few locals doing as well. In front of me we have the spectacular Hanoi Opera House. It's this beautiful building styled in French colonial infrastructure. If you guys didn't know, this part of Southeast Asia, so Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and parts of Burma were all part of French Indochina just before World War II. So there's a lot of like French colonial buildings all around Vietnam, especially in Hanoi. And yeah, this is just one of the best examples of it. So if you're like me and you stick out like a sore thumb in the middle of Hanoi, then you will have a lot of people approaching you, especially if you look like a proper tourist. They'll sort of approach you with like offering you to buy different goods, or like offering to like give you a ride to places and so forth. It's all friendly. Everyone in Hanoi seems super friendly. So as long as you say no, then most people will just walk away. They don't constantly pester you like they do in some other countries. So yeah, just something to bear in mind. Finally managed to check in and freshen up a bit into some new clothes, had a shower, slept for a bit as well, so I feel good now. The time is about 3:30 p.m, so I'm ready to head back into the city. The hotel I'm staying in is in a place called Old Quarter, which if you look at any sort of video or blog about Hanoi, everyone describes the Old Quarter as like the place to visit. It's sort of like the heart and soul of Hanoi, and I thought it'd be the best place to stay. The best way to sort of describe the Old Quarter is that it's a bunch of sort of narrow streets, sort of all neatly packed in together. it's just full of so much activity. I mean, we got to our hotel at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was already packed full of life. People were like going about their daily business. There's loads of like street vendors as well out here, and they'd already set the stores up. So yeah, it's just insane to think about, like, the culture here and like the activity on the street comes nowhere close to anywhere in like the Western Hemisphere. So yeah, like, unless you've been to Southeast Asia, there's just no way of really describing it. Just to give you guys a better understanding of how the old quarter looks like, this is the view from our hotel balcony, and yeah, you can see here how like it's so narrow. There's constant stream of people going up and down. You see some of the shops as well, and yeah, it just continues more on this side as well. And like I said, if you do come to Hanoi, I do really think you have to stay somewhere around the old quarter. It's where you experience the true Hanoi, I guess. One quick tip before I head out: download the Grab app, which is like Southeast Asia's version of Uber. You can use it to like get food delivery, or more importantly, you can use it to order taxis. I've been told by various people to not get a taxi off the street. Always pre-book one on Grab, so that you know the price beforehand, or get the hotel you're staying at or the restaurant, whatever restaurant you go to book you one, so that you can pre-arrange a price. Never run on the meter. Basically, they tend to sort of scam tourists a lot, and when you, like I mentioned, when you stick out like a sore thumb, they're always going to run out of price. So make sure you pre-agree your price before you get any taxi. I feel like the chaos of Hanoi gets notched up even further in the evenings. It is so hectic out here. I like to consider myself a fairly experienced traveller, but like, I'm really having to like concentrate and like be very aware of what's around me. You have people trying to overtake you from all over the place. Traffic signals don't seem to be a thing here. Like, there was a crossing earlier that had a green signal to let like pedestrians cross. But motorbikes were still flying through it, so yeah, you gotta be very careful. In front of me, you probably have the most famous attraction within Hanoi, which is the Hanoi train street. It's this narrow street where there's a train track right in between these shops. The train apparently comes here like once or twice in the evening. A couple of years ago, you were able to sort of freely roam around, but obviously due to safety concerns, the only way you're allowed to sort of visit this area now is if you come as sort of like an official like guest of any of these cafes that sit by the train track. So yeah, you have to sit by one of them, and then you're only allowed to visit. So that's what we've done. We've ordered ourselves some coffee. My original plan was to see the train go past. However, it's been about 45 minutes and the train hasn't come. In fact, I spoke to some locals who don't really seem to know either. I've been told it comes at 5, 7, 9. It doesn't really seem to be a set timetable. And I had a look online as well, and that didn't really help either. So as nice as it would be to see the train go past, I'm not going to spend hours waiting for a train that might not even turn up. It's rush hour at the moment and the streets are absolutely crazy. I mean, look at that. How is anyone supposed to walk through that? It's insane, honestly insane. So currently we are on Beer Street, which, as you can guess, is a street full of pubs, bars. Yeah, it looks very lively. It's only 6 o'clock and it's already sort of starting to get very lively and busy around here. I can imagine on a Friday night, Saturday night, probably popping off even more. So if you're like a backpacker and you want to meet other backpackers, I feel like this is the kind of place you want to be at. Obviously, no trip to Hanoi would be complete without trying some Vietnamese food. Hi there. Can I get the stir-fried pho and beef, please?
One.
Just one, yeah. And then can we also get six McDonald's? Just one. Thank you. The food wasn't too bad. Funny enough, that was actually my first time trying Vietnamese food. So yeah, the pho was definitely, the stir-fried pho was definitely a lot better than I thought it would be. The spring rolls were actually a lot better, but I forgot to film the spring rolls, but it's definitely one of the best spring rolls I've had in my life. Anyway, the time is like 9:30 now, so probably just going to walk back to our hotel. We've had an incredibly long day with our 12-hour flight and very minimal sleep, so I've got a lot of sleep to catch up on. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 2 of Hanoi. Good morning and welcome to day 2 of my trip to Hanoi. Today the plan is to sort of venture out of the old quarter area where we're staying in and sort of visit other attractions within Hanoi. Sadly, the reason why Vietnam is sort of well known across the world is due to the Vietnam War, which took place in the 60s and 70s. I'm not going to go into like the in-depths of the war. I feel like I'm not well versed enough to do that, and there's loads of other great videos and documentaries about that. But essentially it was a battle between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. North Vietnam was the communist state and was backed by the Soviet Union, and South Vietnam was sort of the anti-communist state and more of the democratic state that was backed by the USA. So it was essentially a proxy war during the Cold War. That both sides sort of fought, I guess. But yeah, so there's lots of like memorials and like stuff relating to the war all throughout the country. And in Hanoi, one of the most sort of spectacular memorials is the mausoleum of Ho Chi Minh himself, who was the first president of North Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh was also famous for his work in obtaining independence for Vietnam in 1945, as well as defeating the French in the First Indochina War. You are able to see his body for free in the mausoleum on most days between 8 and 11 AM, though be careful, there are a very strict set of rules that you have to follow if you plan to enter the mausoleum. Next to the mausoleum lies the Presidential Palace, the current home of the President of Vietnam. Whilst you can't go inside the palace, you are free to walk around the grounds and admire the stunning French architecture. So the next thing on our agenda is the Temple of Literature, which is just to the side of me over there. We're about to go inside. It's a temple that was built about 1,000 years ago, dedicated to Confucius. I think that's how you say his name. And yeah, you can go inside. Apparently it's going to be really beautiful inside. There's loads of different courtyards you can visit, 5 in total apparently. And there's only 30,000 dong to enter, which is just over £1, which is incredibly cheap. I'd imagine something similar in the UK or in Europe would be like 10, 50, 20 quid. So for £1 to see a temple, sign me up. This temple is actually really relaxing and really sort of peaceful. As I mentioned, there are 5 different courtyards here, and each courtyard was built in like a different part of history. So the first courtyard was built about 200 years ago, and this one, I mean, at the moment is a lot older. And yeah, you can just looking at this place, you can sort of get an idea of how historically significant it is. So that was the Temple of Literature. It wasn't too bad, to be honest. It wasn't as big as I thought it would be, but I guess for a £1 entry fee, I can't complain too much. It was very peaceful, very sort of enlightening and spiritual. It's one of those places I feel like you could just sit down and watch time fly by without even realising. So yeah, definitely worth visiting. It's sort of right next to the mausoleum as well as a plethora of other government buildings. So if you're in the area, make sure you check it out. It's time to grab some lunch. We found a restaurant about a half an hour walk away that we want to try out. But as you can tell, it's very hot. It's a lot hotter than it was yesterday. It's a lot more humid as well. I'm very, very sweaty. I feel like my face is glistening. But so instead of walking half an hour to get to the restaurant, we're going to try and grab some grab bikes. Now you might be thinking, what the hell is a grab bike? As I mentioned yesterday, Grab is Southeast Asia's version of Uber, and whereas in the UK and other parts of Europe, you can only get Uber as like a 4-seater car, a 4-seater vehicle, in Southeast Asia, you can also get Grab as like a motorbike. So someone will literally come and pick you up on a motorbike and you'll just jump on behind them and ride with them to a place. It does sound terrifying, I can't lie, but we really, really want to try it out. So yeah, wish me the best of luck. Hopefully I'll make it one piece. Tortash? T-H-A-R-S-H? Yes, that's me. Yeah, that's me. It's not as dangerous as I thought it would be. The driver's been pretty calm. I'm pretty safe, which is very important. But they didn't give me a helmet, which I thought they would. Thankfully, I made it to the restaurant in one piece. My driver didn't give me a helmet, which was a little bit sus, I guess, but he drove relatively safely. He didn't speed, didn't like unnecessarily weave in and out of traffic, so I guess it was okay. For a 5-minute journey, that ride cost me 60p, which is ridiculously cheap. A 5-minute Uber in the UK is what, like 10 quid maybe sometimes? I feel like it's even more expensive than that actually. But yeah, within Hanoi, there's no real public transport. I've seen a few buses here and there, but they're still more in the outskirts of the city and more in like the residential areas within like the old quarter and other touristy bits of Hanoi. There really isn't any public transport, so your options are to either walk it around, which is fine, but given that how hot it is and how humid it gets, you might get tired after a while, so grab bikes seem like a good alternative to me. So for lunch I decided to get some beef fried rice with some pork spring rolls. Hopefully they taste as good as they look. That was by far the best food I've had since I've been here. The fried rice with beef was amazing, as well as the fried spring rolls, both were quality. So if you want to sample the same food I had, make sure you come to My Pho, which I think you can sort of see there. They have quite a few branches I've seen around Hanoi, so yeah, go to your local one. And it's good quality food as well, and cheap as well. Both my dishes I got were both 50,000 dong each, so total came to 100. With a drink, 115, that's about 4 or 5 quid. Definitely good value for money. Next on the agenda for this whistle-stop tour of Hanoi is Hoa Lo Prison, which is, as you can guess, well, was a prison that used to house prisoners of war from the Vietnamese War, as well as other general prisoners. It doesn't act as a prison anymore, it closed down a while ago, but they've reopened as a museum, so gonna have a look inside. It costs 30,000 dong, so same as the Temple of Literature, which is just over £1. So to give a bit more of a background on the prison, it was built just over 100 years ago by the French when they sort of colonised this part of Southeast Asia, and when it was known as French Indochina, and this was one of the largest prisons in the whole of French Indochina. Just finished going around the museum. It was really insightful. I actually learnt a lot, and we were there for like a total of 2 hours, so yeah, there's definitely a lot to see, and it's definitely worth the entry price. Famously, John McCain, the senator who ran against Barack Obama for presidency in 2008, also used to be a president here, so yeah, it's definitely interesting. Considering it's 30,000 dong, which is just over £1, you definitely get a bit massive value for your money. So if you're a bit into your history and you're intrigued to learn more about the colonial past of Vietnam, definitely check out Hoa Lo Prison. The time is currently 5 p.m. So the plan is we're going to walk around for a bit, maybe buy some souvenirs and head back to the hotel early. We need to pack up tonight because we've got quite an early start tomorrow. What I'm doing tomorrow is probably the most exciting thing I guess I'm doing on this whole holiday, and probably the thing I've been looking forward to the most. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to see that video when it comes out. But yeah, I guess this represents the end of this video, the end of my 48 hours in Hanoi. It's a beautiful place. The locals are super friendly. They're always really happy to like give advice, help me out. So yeah, it's a lovely place to be. The streets are a bit chaotic, but I loved it. It perfectly like represents the place. I'm gonna sign off now, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hopefully I've given you good insight into Hanoi and a few things that you can get up to. As always, I hope you guys are doing well, stay safe, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.